In the heat of Africa, where the earth was rich and the sun beat down with relentless heat, there lived a couple called Akani and Adoni. They were farmers in a village surrounded by towering trees and fields of golden maize. For years, their humble abode echoed with prayers for a child to fill the void in their hearts. Their prayers were answered when Adoni gave birth to a son, whom they named Tanimola. He was a boy with eyes as bright as the morning sun, and his smile could light up the darkest night. Akani and Adoni cherished him and showered him with so much love and affection, and the village people rejoiced at the arrival of their long-awaited child. But fate can be so cruel, and tragedy struck when Tanimola was just 8 years old. On a peaceful evening while playing near the village outskirts, he was snatched away by raiders who swept through the village like a storm, leaving devastation in their wake. Akani and Adoni searched frantically, their cries mingled with anguish, but Tanimola was gone, vanished into the wilderness beyond. Years passed, and the memory of Tanimola faded like a whisper in the wind. Akani and Adoni mourned their loss, their hearts heavy with grief. But life in the village went on, marked by the rhythm of the seasons and the cycles of planting and harvesting. Meanwhile, Tanimola found himself in a distant village, far from the home he once knew. The raiders had taken him as a prize, selling him to a wealthy merchant who saw the potential in the young boy's bright eyes and quick wit. Tanimola was thrust into the world of hardship and toil, forced to work long hours under the scorching sun, but he never lost hope. Years turned into decades, and Tanimola grew into a man of strength and resilience. Through sheer determination and unwavering perseverance, he carved out a path for himself, rising from the ashes of his past to become a wealthy and influential figure in a distant village. He built a thriving business empire, with merchants and traders flocking to seek his favor. But amidst his success, there was a void in Tanimola's heart, a longing for his family he had lost so many years ago. He remembered the warmth of his mother's embrace and the sound of his father's laughter, and he vowed to find them no matter the cost. Driven by the burning desire to uncover his roots, Tanimola embarked on a journey across the vast expanse of the African land, following whispers and rumors that led him back to the village of his childhood. Meanwhile, in the village, Akani and Adoni had fallen on hard times. Their crops failed, their livestock dwindled, and poverty gnawed at their bones like relentless beasts. Desperation clouded their judgment, and the memory of their son faded into the background, replaced by thoughts of survival and self-preservation. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadow lengthened across the dusty streets, Tanimola arrived. He arrived on the outskirts of the village. He stood at the edge of the familiar landscape, and his heart pounding with anticipation as he gazed upon the humble huts and winding pathways. Determined to find his family, Tanimola ventured into the heart of the village, disguised as a weary traveler seeking shelter for the night. He knocked on the door of a modest hut, his heart racing with nervous anticipation as he waited for a response. The door creaked open, revealing a woman with weary eyes and graying hair, who regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "Good evening," he said, his voice trembling with emotions. "I'm searching for my family, and I believe they may reside in this village." The woman's eyes widened in surprise as she beckoned him inside, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope. She led him to the small table where her husband sat, his face withered with age and wisdom. "This man claims to be searching for his family," she said, with her voice trembling with emotions. "Perhaps we can help him?" The man regarded Tanimola with a scrutinizing gaze, his eyes lingering on a faint scar that marred his cheek. "What proof do you have of your identity?" he asked, his voice gruff with suspicion. Tanimola hesitated for a moment, his mind racing as he searched for the right words. Sir, I have no proof of my identity. I only have memories of my childhood," he said, with his voice trembling. "I remember the warmth of my mother's embrace and the sound of my father's laughter. I remember the fields of maize stretching out under the African sun, the laughter of the children playing in the streets. Please, if there is any chance that I am your son, do not turn me away." The man's eyes softened and his heart stirred with the earnestness in Tanimola's voice. "We'll take you in for the night," he said. His voice tinged, and that with uncertainty. "But we will make no promises until we have proof of your identity." And so, Tanimola was welcomed into the home of Hakoni and Adoni, the couple who had once longed for a child so many years ago. They treated him with kindness and hospitality, sharing stories of their life in the village and the hardship they had endured. When it was time to go to bed, Adoni showed Tanimola where to sleep. While Tanimola was using the toilet, Adoni had a peek in his room and saw his bag. She looked in it, and to her surprise, she saw lots of money and wondered why he would have such in his possession. Adoni quickly went to inform Akani of what she had just seen, and the two decided that they wanted a share of the money. Akani and Adoni hatched a plan to seize Tanimola's money and claim it as theirs. So they crept into his room with their hearts filled with greed and their hands trembling with anticipation. Akani thrust a sharp knife into Tanimola's side, and he was left to bleed, while the two reached for the bag that held the keys to their dreams. But as soon as they opened the bag and gazed upon the money within, they recoiled in horror at what they saw. It was a piece of clothing, the very one Tanimola wore on the day he was kidnapped so many years ago. "No, it cannot be," cried Adoni. "Our son, alive and well after all these years?" Adoni cried, with trembling in her voice and disbelief. Adoni and Akoni's heart twisted with guilt and remorse as they realized the depth of their betrayal. In their greed and their desperation, they had betrayed their own son, their own flesh and blood, sacrificing him for the promise of wealth and riches. But it was too late for redemption, for Tanimola lay lifeless before them, his body cold and still, his dream of a reunion shattered by their greed and their deceit. As dawn broke over the horizon, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the darkness. Adoni and Akoni wept bitterly. The end.